Now I'm going to be discussing your standard DPS rotation as a Fury Warrior. One thing to note about DPSing as a Fury Warrior is that rage generation and rage management are absolutely vital in order to DPS properly. If you are unable to manage your rage well, you will not be able to do the DPS that you are capable of. It is one of the most important parts of playing this spec. The basic premise of the DPS rotation as Fury is that you're going to use Whirlwind, then Bloodthirst, then you will use an Instant Slam if you have a Blood Surge proc, then Bloodthirst again, and then you will repeat the rotations, going back to Whirlwind. While you are doing this rotation, you will also be using Heroic Strike, but because of the nature of Heroic Strike, I'm going to be discussing it a little bit later. On an exact timescale, the rotation looks like Whirlwind at 0 seconds, 1.5 seconds later, you will use Bloodthirst, at 3 seconds you will use your free global cooldown, ideally it will be an Instant Slam if you have a Blood Surge proc, then you will wait 1 second, and then you will use Bloodthirst again, and then you will wait 1 more second and use Whirlwind. Now, the issues with this rotation can come from those 1 second waits, because it is very possible for you to accidentally use another ability, eating up a global cooldown, if you are not careful and paying attention to it. In this clip, you'll actually notice that at one point in time I do actually Rage Starve myself. Now, this brings up an important point of no warrior is perfect at rage management. You will always be able to make a mistake, so never assume that you were perfectly fine with it, because it will happen to you at times. But the better that you are at managing your rage, the less likely it will happen. So always practice it, always make sure that you're managing your rage properly. Be very careful with it, pay attention. The reason why I jump to cancel the Slam cast when I accidentally hit it without a Blood Surge proc is because of the fact that Slam pauses your swing timer, and therefore you will not auto-attack, and that is actually a DPS loss if you let it go through. So if you accidentally hit Slam, just simply jump to cancel the cast. Now I'm going to be discussing Heroic Strike, which is our rage dump. Heroic Strike is a very deceiving ability. This is because of a few reasons. One of them being that even though it says that it only costs 12 rage if you have 3 points in improved Heroic Strike, it actually costs much more than that. This is because whenever you use Heroic Strike, your next main hand swing will not generate any rage, which could be easily as much as 30 rage. So, in reality, it means that Heroic Strike costs somewhere around 40 to 45 rage, just for an ability that does 495 damage. Which leads me to the next deceptive aspect of Heroic Strike, its damage. A very common misconception about Heroic Strike that some warriors make is that it does a lot of damage. They say this because they see the damage on their screen and in their combat log that says Heroic Strike did a lot of damage. While this is okay that they see this, the important thing to notice is what you don't see, and what you don't see is a main hand auto attack. Most of Heroic Strike's damage, which you see on your screen and in your combat log, is actually damage that would have happened anyway if you did not queue up a Heroic Strike, because you would have had a normal auto attack from your main hand. So you would have done the same amount of damage, just 495 damage less. The reason why we use Heroic Strike in our DPS rotation is because of the fact that while we do not want to become rage starved, we also do not want to become rage capped, which means to be at 100 rage. This is because when you are at 100 rage, your auto attacks will not generate any additional rage, which means that you are essentially wasting rage that you could have had. And Heroic Strike is what helps us keep from hitting 100 rage. A general rule for using Heroic Strike is if you have under 50 rage, you should not use Heroic Strike, and if you have more than 50 rage, go ahead and use Heroic Strike, but only use it once or twice. Never spam Heroic Strike, always be in control of when you use it. In this next clip, I'm going to be showing you what happens when you spam Heroic Strike. Now, in this clip, I have around 36% chance to crit, unbuffed, as well as the Tier 9 4-set bonus, which increases Heroic Strike and slams critical strike chance by 5%. And with Rampage, that means that my Heroic Strike has around 46% chance to crit. Because of this high percent chance to crit with Heroic Strike, as well as having a glyph of Heroic Strike, the effects of spamming Heroic Strike are slightly negated, but they are still there. So never, ever spam Heroic Strike. It is not worth it. Because you need to switch stances in order to use Shattering Throw, I'm going to be discussing what it looks like when you actually do that. Because when you switch stances, you will be unable to do your DPS rotation properly. Ideally, you want to switch when you have the most time left on both cooldowns of Whirlwind and Bloodthirst. This point in time occurs when you use Bloodthirst immediately after a Whirlwind. In reality, however, it is okay to switch stances at any time. Once you do switch stances, get your Shattering Throw off as fast as possible, and then get back into Berserker stance as fast as possible. As you are switching back, it is a very common practice to use a Rend in order to burn a little bit of rage that is going to get wasted anyway from switching stances. Thank you for watching this movie. As always, feel free to ask questions or add suggestions either in the comments section on YouTube or in the thread dedicated to this movie on TankSpot.com. Also, TankSpot donors can download all of these movies in high definition directly from our servers. Click the second link in the movie information box to learn more.